So, hi everyone. This is Yu. I'm founder and co-founder and CEO of Tantan, probably the leading dating app in China right now. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we think about machine learning and AI in the scenario of dating. So a little bit about myself. I'm born in Beijing, but I grew up in Sweden. So our family moved there when I was 7. So I spent 20 years in Sweden. And in 2007, me and Sophia went back to China. Sophia is my co-founder and nowadays also my wife. So we started our first company called P1 together in 2007, almost 12 years ago. And we ran that for 7-8 years. P1 is a fashion community that was probably a little bit ahead of its time, and it's something we worked a lot on. It's also a social project, but it was hard to get it to scale. For us, the 3 issues we saw with that one was that it was a little bit too niched. The second was that the pain point wasn't strong enough because fashion socializing is not something that you have to solve. And the third one is that the product was had too many functions. We more or less built a mini Facebook. So when we did Tantan, we wanted to solve a really strong pain point, and we wanted to target a big audience, and we wanted the product to be as simple as possible while solving the problem to as high extent as possible. So we launched Tantan in September 2014, and it has gone very well since then. We've grown very fast. And we were acquired by Momo in March this year. So we're still working on growing it even bigger. And we have already made a pretty significant impact so far. We've generated over 7 billion matches already. And a match is between 2 people, right? So it's actually 14 billion match experience. And we expect to have generated tens of millions of couples from our efforts in the last 3-4 years. And the problem we defined in China is that there's a huge lack of channels to meet people. And this problem is much bigger than in the West because there's a lack of flirting culture. Chinese people can't really just talk to a stranger, and say, hi, I'm Wang, what's your name, and so on. That's seen as a bad, indecent behavior still. Even though the mindset and the openness to dating is, opening up very quickly. It's basically on par with how it is in the West. But just the initial contact, the ice breaking, is very difficult. So there's basically no offline channels. When we started, we wanted to do some promotions through college parties, and we found that there were no college parties. Almost no parties for young people in China. And the Chinese audience who sits here will understand what I mean. And very few people go to clubs and bars. And even if you meet someone, in a subway, in an elevator, you don't, in a mall, you don't dare talk to them. So offline doesn't work, more or less. And the other thing is that most young people in China don't live in their hometown. They either study in a different city or they work in a different city. So they don't really have friends and relatives. So they're extra lonely, and there's no one to introduce people to them. So the biggest need, as we define it, is to just meet people. And Tantan is a very good way for them to do that because basically you don't have to risk getting rejected, right? When you like someone, they won't know unless they like you back. When you do match, then there is no indecency. You can just go and talk to them. It's like a good-looking girl smiling at you, and then you go and say something. That's something most people can handle. And you know that she's interested, so you have a lot of confidence. And from the side of the female, you never get harassed, right? You don't get spammed by a lot of people you don't like. Also, from girls' point of view, their success rate is incredible, right? So guys tend to like 60% of the girls, and girls only like 6% of the guys. So there's a 10 times difference. So from a girl's point of view, it's almost like this classical Chinese emperor choosing his concubine for the night. He's not this one, not this. This is okay, and it's almost a guaranteed match if she likes someone. So success rate's incredible for all female users. There's not a single female user that cannot get matches, and even the least popular female user is more popular than the most popular guy. And the third thing is that for female users, they can choose themselves, who they want to match with. And in society, usually the female side has to wait for the guy to make the first move, right? And usually it's never the knight in shining armor that approaches you. So here you have it's actually much more equal in all aspects. So what's the challenge of AI? So the app is very simple, right? You basically have a stack of cards that you swipe to the left or right, and because it's so simple, the algorithm for choosing who you should see in what order makes a huge difference in user experience, right? And it's actually very different from ads and news feeds, where you basically can focus on accuracy. And the reason is that the inventory is very limited per person. So, for example, for ads, right? You have 10 advertisers. I'm the media, and I have 10 advertisers. Now, one of them is generating a lot of clicks, right? Say 1,000 clicks, and the other 9 is not generating any clicks. Now, I'm making the same amount of money whoever is generating those clicks, right? So 1,000 clicks from one person, from one advertiser, is equal to 1,000 times the revenue of one click. Now, from our point of view, having 10 people where one gets, like, say, 100 matches, and the other 9 is not getting any matches, is vastly different than having each getting 10 matches, obviously, right? Because the value of matches goes down very quickly. So from what we have seen, the value basically doesn't increase anymore after 5 matches a day. So there's a strong decay. And what we need to do is basically to get as many people to have a good experience as possible. This actually is something that applies to both ads and news feeds as well, but it's not a strong concern. They don't need to solve it. Well, we have to solve it. So basically, you can see the whole thing as a bipartite graph. Right? This is what it looks like. So you have males on one side, you have females on the other side, and all these edges in between, all these lines in between, are the value of if they would see each other. The probability that they would match, probability that they would chat, given that they would match, the probability that they would have a long, and happy chat, given that they would start chatting. And so there's actually 3 aspects to this problem. One is accuracy, precision recall. And like I said, this is the only aspect most other scenarios of machine learning needs to solve. And with accuracy, what I mean is that, given A and B, what's the probability that they would match, right? And with recall, I mean that given that A would see 100 people, how many people that he actually likes would we, if these 100 people are chosen by random, how many people would we be able to catch, correctly, estimate that he would like? That's accuracy in recall. And if you do that really well, if you're God, right, then the only thing you would be able to do is to draw this graph correctly. You would know how the graph looks like. But that doesn't, it doesn't stop there, because like I said, the inventory is very limited. So you have to distribute it as well as you can, right? There's a huge difference in how you distribute these edges. Because everyone, say in Beijing, right, there's hundreds of thousands of people they have an edge to that they potentially could match with. But every day they make, say, 150 swipes. So you have to, for every person, choose 150 out of 100,000. And when you choose that, so I can give you, I can show you the simplest example, right? You have four people. You have 2 guys and two girls, and say that the graph looks like this. Guy 1 and girl 1 are soulmates. If they see each other, it's over, right? Their life is set. And then you have these other 2, and girl 2 can only match with guy 1, and guy 2 can only match with girl 1, and they would be pretty happy together. And say that every person will only swipe once in this scenario. Now, what's the optimum solution globally? Well, it's to not let these 2 soulmates see each other, right? It's to let guy 1 see girl 2 and girl 1 see guy 2. That's the best solution. And if you don't do that, if you go for soulmates, what's happening is that half the population are not getting matched at all. So that's a very tricky problem to solve, right? So this is the best solution. And the third aspect is response time. So most likely the person that you like will not be online at the same time, right? So there's going to be some kind of lag between the time you like them and the time they like you back. And we need to estimate that lag, because there's a huge difference, even if you're soulmates, and you would match and be very happy together. There's a huge difference if they swipe you back and you match a second after you do the action, or if you have to wait a month. So we have to estimate how long it's going to take for that person to get back to Tantan. And we also have to estimate when they go back, how many swipes are going to make. Because we might have prepared like 50 candidates for them, but they only swipe 10 times. Then that's not going to work. So it's actually these 3 different problems that we need to solve. One is just general precision and recall. One is global optimization, and one is response time. And all 3 are actually very difficult issues to solve. And if you want to combine those 3, that's where it gets really interesting. So we're working on this, and we hope to be able to present something to the world when we have found a really good answer. Thank you.